Hey guys, so this episode is all about creating massive change, transforming your life into the vision that you have for yourself, or just figuring out what that vision is. Moses and I talk about the different ways that we've done that in our lives in this past year and this upcoming year. So listen up. Make sure you subscribe, you like, you share with all your friends, and let us know in the comments below. Let us know if you think we're entirely wrong, if we don't know what the hell we're talking about. But if you like what we do, you like what we say, also comment and let us know how you would apply this in your life.
I was looking, I was like, there's no red thing on the top. I'm like, we just spoke for half an hour and nothing was recorded. Yep.
Was it half an hour?
Yeah, it's 35 minutes so far. Yeah.
All right. So let's start fresh. We have an idea. Funny thing is, after we talk like that, I'm like, I don't want to talk about that shit anymore.
Yeah, I don't feel like talking about it anymore. It's fucking whack now. God, you missed it.
Yeah.
You must tap into the ether to get the podcast. Because
all right. So let's reset. Where are we going?
Well, let the audience know that you fucked up.
I fucked up. We had a whole podcast and I never hit the record button.
So, yeah.
So you guys lost an opportunity of having a great podcast on creating massive change.
Yeah, creating massive change. Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
But, you know, we've been working on that journal, which is about creating change in your life. And I
thought, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No. I was going to talk about that journal real quick, because when I was thinking about the goal that I want to achieve, and I'll let you guys know in a second, I was thinking about it in reverse, right? And so instead of thinking about the goal, I thought about who I wanted to become. Like, why do you want to change, right? Why do these things? So I'm like, in my eyes, I feel like in terms of my physicality and my health, discipline, consistency, those are the two things that I desire to achieve. Mm-hmm. And then I asked myself, what things would allow me, or what goals can I set for myself that make me become that person? Right? Because it's not really like achieving the goal. Once you achieve the goal, it's like done. It's like next. But I think who you have to become to achieve that goal is what it is. So then I thought about it and I was like, okay, triathlon. Well, half a triathlon is what I want to do. That's going to require discipline and consistency from me. It's going to require learning. It's going to require a lot of failure because I don't know how to swim. And I don't know. I mean, I know how to ride a bike, but I don't know how to ride like one of those like little tiny bikes with the spandex. One of those. So those are the things that I got to work on. And then I thought to myself, well, what is the thing that is stopping me from becoming that right now? And I thought of all the things, like I listed them on the board, all of the different things that are stopping me from becoming disciplined and consistent with my health, and what will stop that eventually, or that essentially would stop me from achieving the goal, because it's no matter what, I'm still having trouble with discipline, consistency. All right. So the things where I notice were time, the way that I'm feeling, like just physically, my back hurts, my shoulder feels fucked up. I'm exhausted after work. My nutrition is off. So I know that my energy and all of that is off. So I thought of all those obstacles, and then I started to create plans for how do I begin to overcome those obstacles when I encounter them. And one of them was stop being a bitch. It's like essentially I went down to them and it's like all of them was just like stop being a bitch. But I created some plans, and I think that's for the journal. I think that would be a great way to kind of start it. Mm-hmm. To not think about the goal, but like attach a goal to who you want to become, right? Because it's not really about the goal. Mm-hmm. It's about who you want to be.
Yeah. with that, I was sharing about the big changes that I've made in my life this year, and changes that we've made as a family, and all that stuff, being all stemming from kind of the same idea, stemming from our mission, like what our future vision is, and how do we become that. So like some of the things we talked about before, whether, this kid's school, we put them in a private school, that is a big aspect of our goals for how do we achieve their success, in becoming, self-aware, contributing adults. We found a school, and with that then came, buying a house so that we can be closer to the school. But that was all part of like that mission that Paula and I sat down and worked through, and wanted to decide, like, what are we trying to achieve? So all these things have been kind of falling into place based off of what you would think is just like, oh, you happen to send me that school on WhatsApp, right? You send me the link of like, oh, check this out. And immediately Paula and I were like, okay, we have to make this happen. The house then became after that. But if you look at our blueprint that we did earlier in this year in January, you look at, our goal is to find opportunities for our kids to develop into this. Our goal is to build our family wealth by buying property, buying a home. And then in a 5-year span, we want to, own 2 homes, and so on and so forth. And all of these things falling into place just because we've been aware. We've been ready to grow in that direction. But many times we have to remember that we're trying to grow in that direction, because I think the past identity freaks out sometimes. Right? It's like, why is things moving this way, and so on and so forth. And then that tries to like hold you, and you have to have that awareness to be like, oh, wait a minute, this is who I'm becoming, not who I was. So those moments can be challenging I think if you don't have it, like you did the work of writing down, like, okay, what you want to become, and so on and so forth. You did that work. If you just think about it and you don't do that like harder work of writing it down, coaching yourself in that sense, like it's easier to be like, oh, no, this is not real, and you fall into what you fall into that groove, and you stop moving forward because you don't know what you're moving forward, because you simply forgot, because you don't have anyone or anything to like be like, nah, bro, you said this. So these are the choices you have to make. Is that making sense?
Yeah, I think I think that happens when, and I find it interesting that you and Paula freak out, because you've been there. Where I'm trying to go is that if people who typically lost everything, right, who lost a home, who've kind of understood what it means to own a home while having a family and still survived, and still typically they've been there, done that. So it's like, it is what it is. Like whatever happens. And I feel like I've been there. Like now I'm at a point where I'm like, if I lose everything again, it just build it back up. Like if it falls, build back up. I think for people who haven't experienced those type of hard losses in that way, is definitely the coaching thing, or writing everything down. It helps, because now you kind of document what exactly it is that you're trying to achieve. And it's funny because I remember I used to do the book where I would write down everything that I wanted. Like I would write it down every morning, just wrote down the same thing. And I have a whole notebook of it just being written down. And I was just like, by 2023, make over 100,000, have a Tesla, buy a house in Montclair. It was just a bunch of things. And listen, podcasts, everything. One of them was a book. And as like speaking all of these things out, I'm like, oh, it's already happening. So it's just like the reticular activation system, you focus on something hard enough, it just happens.
Yeah.
And like, it's not even like creating a plan to do it. It's like your brain already knows where you're going. So you just make decisions to get you in that direction.
And going back to like what I was talking about with buying the house and the school, like there wasn't like an exact plan. In fact, there was a little bit of like, okay, we want to save this much by the end of the year, but that all kind of fell into place for the larger mission at hand, which is like, all right, we're trying to build our family wealth. So how do we build our family wealth? It's going to be through property. Oh, now is a good time to buy because we have already moved our kids to a different school, a different area, which was what was keeping us in this town. And it all kind of rolled into place because we had that larger view, the larger perspective of where we're trying to go. So when, in the part that we didn't record, we talked about Mel Robbins and the reticular activation system, where she gives you in her book, High Five Habits, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. She gives you a mission there where it's like, look for hearts everywhere you drive, everywhere you go throughout the day, and you end up finding hearts. And it's just because your awareness has brought this not into existence, but allowed you to notice these things that are already there. And this is kind of how opportunity works. We notice the opportunities are there, and then we start making the decisions. And it goes back to what you said with the identity. I'm the person that's seeking to build wealth for my family. So I'm looking for the opportunities for that. It's like, oh, okay, so there's a house on the market. There's a house on the market in this area. Oh, we have enough money saved. We have these opportunities that we can make this happen. And you start seeking the pathway because you are seeking the outcome. So I think, going back to the idea of the journal, I think there's a huge part when it comes to recognizing that, because there's something I'm trying to like make sense out of, where there's like, oh, you can be in a space where it's like, oh, I need to be this person. I need to be like this person that I look up to, right? So I need to act like them, right? But it's not that. It's something greater of like knowing that you're growing and developing into this version of yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I think if you look at it that way, where it's like you're looking up to a person that you want to be like, so what do you admire about that person? Like what are the characteristics that you admire about that individual? And then seek into like the why behind that. Why are those things? Why do you want to be like that individual?
Yeah.
And then the things that they should come out with should be hurtful about themselves to an extent. I think if it's not, you're not really like digging deep into, you're just like scratching the surface. Because the only reason you would want to be like somebody else is because you don't like who you are. Or you don't like a part or a version of who you are.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, like below, comment, let us know your thoughts, and continue to enjoy.
So then there's like part of that there's like a part of self-acceptance that has to occur, acknowledgement, and then self-acceptance, and then the work to become whatever it is that you desire to become.
So how about on the flip side of that, of like, it's not a person that you want to become, but it's this new identity that you want to become. How is that? Is that the same thing as like, oh, there's something you dislike about yourself, so you want to become a new thing?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it has to be that way. I think you have to acknowledge that there's something that you have that won't allow you to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So I think you can love yourself and then look at your life and say, well, I want to change these things about my life. And then say, these things about how I operate in this moment don't allow me to achieve the thing that I want to become.
Mm-hmm.
So I love these things about me, but they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
They need to go because they don't work in getting me to move forward. There's that aspect, but I think that's a different level of self-awareness, and a different person that has gone through a journey of personal development already that thinks that way.
I was going to say that because that, to me, that's in personal development. We see that a lot. We see that the person can either hate themselves so much that everything they do is wrong. So they're always seeking this kind of outside perspective, outside, like, oh, this is how I should be. And it's like fueled by self-hatred almost. And I don't think that's healthy. That's not what we're talking about either. To me, I see it from the perspective of like self-love. And it's nurturing. It's similar how I see my children, of nurturing them to allow them to grow, nurturing them so that they can feel empowered and believe in themselves enough to believe that if they want to achieve something, they can achieve it. So I'm always like in this kind of position of like, if you want to achieve something, does that mean that you hate where you are? I don't think it needs
doesn't have to. It doesn't need to be, no.
But how do we explain that? How do we explain the desire to want to become something else without disliking where you are?
I think it's because people attach meaning to who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I am this way, therefore I am. So you can't love yourself if you believe that you are that thing, versus it just being an aspect of who you are. It's just something that exists within you, and then you have the ability to change it. So first, the belief that something can change about yourself has to exist. So if someone doesn't believe that they are capable of changing, truly capable, and I believe there's ways to read this into somebody's mind. Like when you interact with somebody, if somebody doesn't believe, then it's going to come from a place of hatred, I think. Because at that point, it's like this thing that you're fighting. It's not something that you're just observing. So you first have to believe that there's a part of you that can change, and you have to look for the evidence of when you did change. So because every human has changed throughout their life, they change their characteristics, their personalities have changed and evolved over time. But then you have to, and we're getting deep into the weeds of like the psychology and coaching of shit, but I'm just going to go a little bit deeper. You have to look at the evidence that says that you did change, and find a perspective of what has changed about you for the belief to exist. From there, once the belief exists, then you can operate more from a place of self-love than from a place of hatred, which then gets you to observe versus judge.
Yeah. So, I think of it this way. If you see your identity of who you are, I'm this person, and you have attachment to it, I think that attachment is what produces that self-hatred. Because now, on the same side of you believe you are this, to me, the reality is you're not this. So if you see your identity, you see the things that you do as clothing you wear, right? Tomorrow, I want to change my outfit. I'll change my clothes. I'm not attached. I'm not crying when I throw something in the hamper, because this is who I am. And if we have that perspective for ourselves, we have the perspective of like, hey, we can change. We can be other things. It doesn't mean we're what we were yesterday was bad. What I was wearing yesterday was a bad outfit. It means that I'm just existing and adjusting to whatever it is. And in that is the experience of enjoying life, enjoying how you're showing up today. Yeah. And to me, that's the practice of that self-love.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's easy to identify people who who attach to themselves. I think there's this one phrase that everybody says when they're truly attached to their identity. It's like, I'm this type of person. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm like, are you really?
I'm the type of person that tells you honestly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I also, there's a physical aspect to it too that I understood about people who attach and identify with things. They hold on to a lot of physical objects. They tend to be hoarders.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. Yeah, like the people who identify, like, it's like, I'm this type of person and I believe in this, and they have these concrete beliefs. They tend to have a lot of shit, and they tend to have difficulties to like let go or throw shit out.
In what ways have you noticed that?
Certain individuals that I will ask Jay to bleep out after this is one of those people. It was a huge hoarder and had huge kind of attachments to his identity and who he was. Mm-hmm. I think he's evolved since then, and he doesn't have as much shit mm-hmm. physically. Like, he's willing to throw stuff out. Right? I just think people who hold on to physical things, because that physical thing is a representation of something that they connect with. Mm-hmm. So then to throw it out is to kind of throw a piece of yourself out. Mm.
So when you went through that, getting rid of all your stuff, was that
the most liberating thing in the world?
Did you feel like in that moment you were cleansing yourself?
Yeah, to an extent. It's like, the way I thought about it was like, well, if I don't have anything, then I have nothing to lose. There's nothing in my possession. Therefore, I get to create who I am from the start.
Let's kind of paraphrase this. What we're saying is, in order to create a new identity for yourself that achieves something that is outside of the realm of your reality today, you have to be willing to become something else. And in order to be willing to become something else, you have to be detached from being anything.
Well, detached from the idea of you, that mm-hmm. you are this way or this type, or come from, even the idea of like ethnicity and background and family, like, it doesn't fucking matter. Mm-hmm. It's all bullshit. It's just an experience.
Yeah.
From one vantage point. And that's the crazy part. Like, it's one vantage point. Like, you don't have the other infinite amount of perspectives that exist in that experience. So therefore, you're only basing who you are and your identity from one perspective, which mm-hmm. is yours, which you hold the truth to. So therefore, you attach yourself to it. So I think, yes, you have to detach from the idea of who you are.
So that reminds me of that 4-minute mile. Is it? No, not the 4 minute. What is is it 4-minute mile?
I think it was 4.
Yeah. The barrier to break that I forgot the athlete's name. But the whole idea that we believed it was impossible. We believe that the medical doctors believe that your heart would explode and all this stuff. And then this athlete set out to do this, disregarding all of those beliefs. And he made it a new reality. After he did it, just months after he did it, a bunch of people started breaking it, and it just became the new normal. But that belief of like, oh no, this is where our limits is. This is who we are. This is what we are capable of. Is what kept all athletes in that realm.
Yeah. You got to believe Ted Lasso. Everybody watch that in that show. Ted Lasso. Believe. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do our little recap.
All right. So you want to change who you are? First of all, buy our journal when it comes out. That's number 1. That's going to help. Number 2 is decide and think about who you want to become. Not necessarily a goal. We can attach a goal to that identity, but I think it's easier to decide what type of person do you want to be, and then attach a goal that forces you to become that person, or puts you in a situation or experience to become that person. And from there, list out all your obstacles, all the challenges that will get in the way of you becoming that person or achieving that goal, and then create a plan for every time you encounter that obstacle.
Nicely said. To highlight what you talked about with the journal, just to give you guys reference, we're working on building out a journal that's going to help you learn how to do this and use all the tools that we use in coaching with all of our clients. So this journal is going to walk you through the pathways on how to do this for yourself, how to make massive changes in your life, and how to achieve things that you might think right now are impossible, but the journal will walk you through that transformation.
Yeah. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe on this channel. Make sure you share it with your friends. Also, you can visit us at VidaProject.com. We'll post some information on the journal in the next coming months, probably towards the end of December, where you can find out where to purchase it and for how much. It's going to be expensive, guys. You're going to earn it. No, I'm playing. I'm joking.
All right. Peace.
Peace.